What is up, y'all? Manny Correa, your real estate resource, and this is episode number 43 of Whiskey Wednesday podcast sessions, where we sit with entrepreneurs, influencers, movers, and shakers over a glass of whiskey. Today, I'm sitting with Chef Rulis. Welcome, Chef.
Well,
Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I know it was a little last minute. We really wanted to get the podcast rolling again, so appreciate you stopping by.
Excellent.
I know you had a busy day. Today we're going to be drinking a really good whiskey, one of my favorites, Glenmorangie. This is a 10-year whiskey from Scottish. It's a Scottish whiskey, okay? Are you a whiskey drinker yourself?
I do. I like whiskey. I like bourbon.
Nice. What are some of your favorites?
On the whiskey side, I like Macallan.
Love Macallan.
Macallan is delicious.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of Bullet.
Bullet?
Yeah.
Bullet's good too.
The rye.
Yeah, the rye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had that on the show.
Yeah.
We've drinking 43 different whiskeys so far. It got in tipsy 43 different times too, so it's cool. But yeah, so really excited to have you on. This is actually our first episode of the whole year, and what a year it's been, right?
Year indeed, yeah.
Fuck 2020 right now. This has been a crazy year. There's just been a lot of changes, a lot of things happening. We're all waiting for it to be over, right? How was your your quarantine?
Our experience, well, we did not stop working. We quickly shifted to takeout and delivery. We've been doing catering for most of the time that we've been open, so it was an easy transition for us. But definitely, difficult decisions to make, who stayed on the job, who got furloughed. My staff is amazing, and some of them went ahead and volunteered. One of them started his own business, which is wonderful.
That's good.
And I think everybody, stayed safe, and in the long run are going to be okay. But it always hurts, My staff is like my family. We are very lucky because a lot of my staff have been with me, 6, 7. I have a lady that's been with me 11 years, a guy that's been with me 10 years, a bunch of people that have been with me 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So they're really become part of the family when you run a family-owned business like that.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult decision to make, but we had to make it. As entrepreneurs, sometimes you have to make those tough choices.
Yeah, you're in that position.
Yeah.
You're taking a lot of responsibility as a business owner, entrepreneur.
Yeah. So it's not always easy. If it was, everybody would do it.
Right.
But we made the right decisions, and I think being in business for over 12 years helped us to navigate the new environment.
Right.
And having the most awesome clientele in the world too, because they've been very loyal. They were loyal through the whole Go 10 construction project, which cut off.
Lasted.
They barely opened executive. It was the first thing they shut down over 5 years ago, and they barely opened it like 2 weeks ago. So
what do you think is going on with the construction? Why does it take so long? I see cities. I lived in another city before, and I saw construction happen really fast. But I think there's just a lot of projects, a lot of growth that's happening all around the city that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they the way these grants work, they have to do the whole project at once. It's a use it or lose it type thing. Yeah. Because trust me, I had conversations with, the Department of Transportation, and, they were trying to help. They were, their heart was in the right place, but, it just created chaos and basically cut 30% of the market off.
That's insane.
Because
by all that
executive was closed, Paisano was closed. You could only get to the west side.
A lot, and it's still happening right now. I think a lot of restaurants are still, or businesses are still closed because of that mess of construction. That's
that, and now they're starting on Mesa. So it's it hasn't been easy, but because we do have that great clientele, they don't mind going against the traffic and going there to eat, some of their favorite foods. So we really are blessed, but we try really hard to keep our customers happy. And I've always told everybody we're not in the service industry. We're in the hospitality business. And
right.
it's a different approach
definitely.
to the way that we do things. And it's one of the things that I think has kept us around for so long. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know, Chef Rulis is the owner of Rulis International Kitchen.
Correct.
Right. So we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and you have a little bit of everything for everyone. And we were kind of talking as far as, the ethnicity background of El Paso and how El Paso's come to be, the types of people that are here in the city. Like, this is a perfect city for international food because we have a lot of international residents, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think most people, when they hear about El Paso, they think,
Juarez, Mexico.
Well, I think they do put it together with Juarez,
Yeah.
but a lot of people still think that we're this dusty old West Texas town, where people are still riding around in horses and stuff. And they come here and they realize that we're, a very big metroplex.
Yeah.
We are, if I understand it correctly, NASA said that we were one of the largest international communities in the world.
Right.
Probably, definitely on this side of the world. We're about 3 million people that live in this community. And,
Yeah.
And nowhere else, along the borders do we have, cities that are this large, living together.
Right. It's crazy because I run every day up Rim Road, so I have a perfect view of El Paso, downtown, and Mexico, and you can't even see unless you know where the border is, where it where it meets, and it's just crazy to see how close we are and how intermingled we are because there's people crossing over every day. There's people going over there every day.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, El Paso is a really cool big city that's evolving tremendously in the real estate sector too. You just see growth happening everywhere and every side of the city right now. So there's a lot of stuff. Amazon is now putting their distribution center, right? So these are some big moves for the city, and it's going to create even more, of a boiling pot type of city where we have every type of international ethnicity here.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited to see El Paso in the next 5, 7, 10 years.
Oh, definitely. I think that El Paso's coming, it's coming into its own. And, we were talking earlier, and there is a lot of diversity here. We're international more so than just being the international border between the U.S. and Mexico.
Right.
We're international because, Native Americans were here, for thousands of years before, the Europeans came, and then the Spanish came, and then the soldiers came with Fort Bliss, and that brought with them Italians and
all kinds
Irish, and all that. And then, after the Civil War, you had the Buffalo Soldiers, and so you had a little bit of Cajun blood, coming into the city.
Right.
In the 1890s, when the railroads got here, that brought the Chinese. The Chinese were building the railroads. It also brought the Middle Eastern people that had moved to Mexico from, places like Lebanon and, the Middle East and Iran, that whole area.
Right.
Merchants for thousands of years, they've been merchants, and they came out here and settled and became merchants. And we know that they're big into real estate. And so those families are an important part of our community, and
they own a lot of real estate.
Yeah,
right?
and their food has been around all this time as well.
Yeah.
Mediterranean food, Arab food. There's a tasty kebab. They're Phoenician. They're from Iran.
Right.
And so they have a little bit different taste on there. But we have Turkish food now, and with the maquilas, the Japanese came. If you wonder how, sushi made it to the middle of the desert, it was actually because
we are a desert.
It's because of the maquilas. So the maquilas, when the Japanese companies brought their companies over to their factories over to Juarez, they brought Japanese management. So all of the management, all of the engineers, they were all Japanese. And so we had an influx of Japanese families that moved into the area. And eventually they brought their food.
Sushi.
Yeah. And that's, that's how we ended up, with sushi. And then, and then someone in Juarez decided to put cream cheese in it and, and put toreados in it.
Yeah. And it
evolved.
evolved.
It evolved, exactly. Yeah. And you used the right word because it did evolve. Some people say, oh, that's sacrilege. How can you do that to sushi? And it's like, I understand it if you're a purist,
Right.
But I look at it from the point like, Japanese came over here. Our community is such a embracing community. They totally welcome the Japanese, and we like their food.
This was literally a collaboration
Definitely.
of two traditions.
Yeah.
And I think we've adopted a lot of different kind of food.
Oh yeah.
And we've added that little, that Latin Mexican twist.
Yeah. Well, I call it Chuco cuisine.
Chuco.
Because we've mentioned all these cultures already, and so it's the evolution of food. So the way that we got Mexican food, and I tell everybody it's not Mexican food. It's a misnomer. We should call it mestizo food. Because the way the food came about was the Spanish and the Native Americans getting together. That was the mestizaje of the people, and the mestizaje also happened with the food. And so, like chile colorado, which we think, oh, that's a Mexican dish. Nope, that's a Native American dish that the Spanish added beef to, and now all of a sudden it's
we
Mexican.
have chile colorado.
But that's how that's how things evolve.
Yeah.
And so.
And it's like the pizza too. I mean, you were saying one of the oldest wood fire pizzas.
One of the oldest commercial working wood ovens in the city.
Oh, you got some taste.
Oh yeah.
Melted into
that
wood. But it's just like
seasoning for sure.
And it's just like the pizza. It came from Italy, right?
Right.
But they don't eat pizza the way we eat pizza.
Right.
They eat margarita pizza, and
right.
If you put anything else on that pizza, to them it's like, what are you doing? This isn't pizza anymore,
Right.
So it's a very traditional thing that evolved into
something else.
Meat lovers and all this stuff.
I mean, I have a pizza al pastor.
That's
at
delicious.
The restaurant. And I have a Mexican pizza where I use.
I don't even eat meat, and that sounds great.
It is awesome. Yeah. It is awesome. I do use jackfruit, so if you want, I'll make you a vegetarian.
Awesome. So what is your, you've been in business for 12 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Has it always been international? Has it always been an international thing for 12 years? Or so what do you feel like are some of the, if any, maybe obstacles or anything that you had to overcome in the beginning, especially bringing it here to El Paso? Because we're mentioning a whole bunch of different ethnicities and traditions here in the city when it comes down to food, but we were talking about it before this. I think it's a lack of awareness because I don't even know, where I could get some good Dominican food or Peruvian food or, so I think it's a lack of awareness for sure. But what were some of the things that you struggled with in the beginning, adapting to a city that's maybe very set on one type of food?
Well, when I did my business plan, I first looked at the location, and we opened downtown in the Cortez building, and I used to work downtown when I was still working in wealth management.
Okay.
Because I had a previous career I did 3 years of real estate and a little bit over 9 years of wealth management.
Nice.
And so I worked downtown at Wells Fargo for over 5 years.
Really?
And so I knew the market. I knew the way the downtown I knew the way the downtown workers did things. I knew, they would go out to lunch and what they were looking for and things like that. And so I knew that what I was bringing was something completely different, but I had seen it work in Houston. I had seen it work in other cities, but I lived in Houston, so I was able to learn a lot from living down there.
Right.
And so when I opened, it was actually pretty easy because I did my homework. And so when you do your homework and you're in tune with the market, it makes things a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So
you're giving them what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I knew that what I was offering was something that they would enjoy.
And on top of that, unique, right? Because I mean,
Definitely.
I'm pretty sure there was no other international restaurants.
Nothing like what we do. I think a few popped up after we did, but of the original trendsetters in cuisine, I think. I mean, I always give a shout out to John Jeske, because I think he really took cuisine to another level when he opened
He's local?
G2. Yeah.
Oh yeah, G2.
Yeah. So
I remember the food.
Right. So he opened G2 with George Cisneros, and then he sold out of that one. But he's got a little empire now with Cowboy Joe's and the chicken places and all of that. But with G2, that space was modern. It was hip, and the food was like updated. Like it had a good menu. It had a little bit of everything. It reminded me of Jackson's old menu, but just like more modern, more fresh, a little more hip. But the ambiance and the music and so I think he's the one that really turned the culinary scene into something different. But for a while there was a lot of startups that opened and shut.
Yeah,
and,
you saw.
And there was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. And when I came in, there was really nothing like my menu. And so it was unique. And since we've been open, we've kept evolving the menu. And I don't think you'll find dishes like what I offer on my menu on other menus.
What are some of your, faves, or what are some of your clients' favorite dishes that you have right now on the menu?
Well, the client's favorite is still our chicken calabacitas.
Nice. I love calabacitas. Is such a classic.
It is.
I could even cook that, and I make a mean calabacitas too.
Well, it's a staple.
Yeah.
All of us grew up in this area. All of us who grew up in this area know what calabacitas are, and so it's a dish that's really popular. And I think it brings a lot of nostalgia, and it's one of those comfort foods from the
takes
region.
it back to grandma's.
Definitely. And so that's our customers. That's what they like the most. My favorite dish is still the pasta chihuahua. That's one of the dishes that I cooked with Guy Fieri when he was in town.
Really?
And
was he just in town because you know him, or he was
filming
a show?
He filmed. Yeah, I was on Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives.
Holy shit!
Yeah, there were 6 restaurants in town. I was one of them that he went to, and he was only here for like 3 days, but he shot 6 restaurants, and we all aired between August and September of last year.
Really? This was recent?
Yeah. It hasn't even been a year.
What was his verdict, or what did he?
Oh,
does he go in and just teach you some new dishes, or he just kind of judges?
No. Actually, the whole process is interesting, because first I thought it was a joke, because I got a text from an out-of-town number saying, "Hi, I'm from Triple D. We'd like to talk to you about featuring you, on the show." And it was Friday night, like maybe 6 o'clock. Dinner service is getting started. I look at my phone. I'm like, yeah, right. And I just put it away. I didn't pay attention at all.
What kind of spam is this?
That's what I thought. I was like, someone's joking, right? And then, like, a couple of hours later, my friend Justin from Dead Beach calls me, and he says, "Hey, did someone from Food Network call you?" And I said, "What?" I'm like, "I got a text." And he was like, "Okay, cool. They contacted you." And I was like, "Well, that was real?" He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "There was a scout, and they asked me like what unique places, you know, they need to check
That's
out.
cool.
And of course I had to tell them, you know, I gave them your name and your number. And I was like, oh man, I was like, I thought it was a joke. I was like, thank you for telling me.
You would have never
because
responded.
otherwise, yeah. So I actually, you know, I texted back at the end of the night and I said, I'm sorry, you know, we were busy with
Please
service,
forgive
but what's up?
Yeah.
And so we had our interview. That was on a Friday. The following, you know, next morning, we had the quick 3-question interview, which is, you know, are you a scratch kitchen? So do you make everything from scratch? And yes. And then if we had multiple locations, no. And that's the right answer because they help like mom and pops. Like they don't
want one location.
Yeah, they don't help people that already
chain.
have like a chain or
Yeah.
anything like that. So they want to keep it local. They want to keep it really to help the mom and pop. It's a great thing that they do there. And then the third question they asked was if I had a freezer. And I was like, well, yeah, I have a freezer. And they're like, what do you keep in the freezer? And I said, ice cream, fish, shrimp, you know, the stuff that comes in frozen.
You need to put in the freezer.
Right, you know, we're in the middle of the desert, you know, it's not like I can.
Were they
go
waiting
get-
for a body?
You know, I think they're just looking to see if you're using, to make sure you're using fresh products,
Right.
you know. And so
They don't want you to say, "Oh, well, we have all the breakfast options." And
oh yeah,
frozen
you know,
and
a
ready
whole
to
bunch
go.
of no. So they said, okay, cool, you passed the test. Now the next part of the interview is going to take like 3 hours. Do you have time to do it? And so I made time, and you basically they were going over my menu, and they were asking, okay, what's in this dish? What's the process in making this dish? And I said, okay, well, this dish, you know, you start by making the sauce and you do this and that. And so there's a format that they want you to answer the questions. And so after getting used to the format, we basically went over the entire menu. And then at the end of the process, she said, okay, I want pictures of these 10 items, and you need to send me this and this and this. After talking to her, she said, I don't make the decision, but I've done these long enough to know that you're going to be on the show. But, you know, she's like, you're, you know, because she loved the stories, because I have tons of stories. You know, everything on my menu has a story.
It was inspired in some way.
Yeah, and so so I told the staff, I was like, you know, our menu has personality because each of these dishes has a story behind it. And so telling her the stories of the dishes and stuff, she was like, yeah, you're gonna be on it. And so I took the pictures, sent it in, and waited for 5 days, and then that Friday at 3:00, they finally gave me the phone call and said, okay, you're going to be on the show.
Wow.
You know, get ready because guy's going to show up at your door at 9:00 in the morning, Monday. And so so the timeline is Friday, I get a text. Following Friday, I get the go ahead.
And then
that Monday,
Damn, they're fast.
we have to get the
That's
restaurant
execution.
ready. Oh yeah. And we had to close for 2 shifts, so we closed Monday for lunch and we closed Thursday for lunch. Guy showed up on Monday, and he picks. You know, I guess they do a meeting where they show him the candidates.
He has the best job in the world.
Oh, yeah,
He's looking at all the photos that you sent him and says, "I want that, and that."
Mhm. And
He
that's what he
has
said.
the best job in the world.
So he was like, yeah. He's like, I wanna cook that, and I wanna cook that. And so he picked the pasta chihuahua, and he picked the oxtail tostada. And he showed up, and the team was really professional. They had 2 units, you know, very professional. They tell you where to stand, you know. Like if I wanted to go get, you know, a spoon, if I would try and move to go get the spoon, they'd be like, no, you stay there, get your sous chef to bring you the spoon. And then they would call Mateo and say, Mateo, can you get chef a spoon, please? And I'm like,
so they wanted that image also of you not having to run around, using the people that you actually work with.
no,
to get it done?
actually what they wanted was just not to lose the shot. They're like, no,
okay.
don't move. It's
Okay.
like, you're in the shot, don't move, let him get it for you. So they don't want you to be, you know, grabbing things or anything like that. Those are distractions. And so they're like, you just stay there. So I'm like, okay, cool. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, telling Mateo, I'm like, sorry, bro. It's like, because that's.
I would have got that.
Yeah,
score.
it's like I got you, but it was a great experience, and he loved the pasta. He said that was a really unique dish, and he enjoyed it quite a lot. And then on the oxtail tostada, on that one he said that it was a postcard from Flavortown, is what he said on that dish.
As a meme.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. So he loved those two dishes. I like the pasta chihuahua because it was the first dish that really I created using the evolution of food. So, like Italian food is nothing. Italian food today is only this. It's only Italian food is only this way because the Spanish and the Italians came exploring the New World. Because tomatoes are from present-day Mexico, and potatoes are from Peru, and corn is from Mexico and like all over, the Americas. You grow corn,
Right.
and so if you think Italian food, you think tomatoes, and it's like, well, that's not native to Italy. And basil is not native to Italy. Basil is like a North African herb, that they took over to Italy. And so all these ingredients, corn for polenta, that came from the New World. So before the exploration of the New World, Italian cuisine was not like what it is today.
It evolved.
It evolved
came,
because ingredients, started making their way across.
And that's how it was
Atlantic.
back in the day, right? Like
Yeah.
they didn't know that basil or tomatoes existed until they came exploring, traded or took over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then ended up adapting and evolving these dishes, which is crazy.
Right.
When you look at the culinary side of it, it's not just throwing stuff in a greaser or a fryer.
Right.
It's an actual art, I think.
Right. So that dish, the pasta chihuahua, was a take on an Italian dish that couldn't have existed without Mexico, because it's a bolognese sauce, which is like a meat sauce made with tomatoes. And so without Mexico, they would have not had the tomato.
Wow.
And then without the Chinese, they wouldn't have had the pasta. So like Marco Polo, we're talking like 1200s now. Like in the 1200s, when his dad actually started exploring China and creating the Silk Road and the trade, the spice trade and all of that.
Right.
Cuisine changed when you started bringing in, new things, new spices and new ingredients. And so to me, when I looked at that recipe, it happened out of just an accident, because I was living in Houston. My housemate wanted to do this cream infused with chorizo.
Were you both competing to see who cooked that night?
No, it's funny because I had sold my house in Houston, and my friend had rebuilt this beautiful home, and he put in a kick-ass kitchen, but he didn't know how to cook. And during my time in Houston, I was working for a Swiss bank, and my business was in Mexico, so I was traveling 4 days out of the week, and I was only home during the weekends. And so he said, well, he's like, instead of buying a house, he's like, why don't you just, it's like, you're only here on the weekends. He's like, just, you can stay here, you can cook, and
make a little extra for me.
Yeah, basically, so basically I would meal prep for him, but he loves food. Like he is a foodie. He loves wine. It was a 2-story house. It is a 2-story house. And underneath the staircase, he built like a 700 bottle wine cellar. And so we had great wine, and it was a great time when we were
especially
living
when
together.
you're pairing, right?
Oh,
especially
yeah.
when you're pairing.
Yeah.
Because I know how culinary is all about the experience. It's not so much
It's
just
everything,
You know,
yeah.
it's taste, it's flavors, it's everything. But you're incorporating that experience into it. I dated a chef, and that was one of the best relationships ever that I looked forward to, because every single day she was cooking something. She was a pastry chef, but she knew how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
So she was making some really, really good food for me, and every day I looked forward to being a little test bunny. But it was really part of that experience factor that she was giving me too. I was trying stuff that I had never tried before,
Right.
and she was experimenting. And
Well, and then living in Houston for me was, when you know, talk about experimenting. I mean, Houston, if we're a melting pot, I mean, Houston they got everything. They got every single culture that's there. They got places where you can go and just shop for like African spices, you know, and you can go to another shop that you can just go and get Indian spices, Indian ingredients. They have
they have the biggest airport also here in Texas, no?
probably Texas, yeah.
Yeah, in Texas for sure.
And well, they have 2 airports. But yeah, it's a huge city, and experimenting over there was awesome. I mean, that's the one thing that I miss about Houston, is just being able to access so many different ingredients. It's amazing when I recall the things that we used to do over there. So we experimented a lot, and this one time he had told me about the chorizo thing, and so I went and bought chorizo. He went and bought chorizo, so we ended up with like chorizo for like days. And so after making, you know, chorizo con papas, and, you know, chorizo with egg, and chorizo with all sorts of things, at that point I was like, well, we still have all this damn chorizo. It's like, what the hell are we gonna do with it? And I said, well, I'm gonna make a bolognese, but instead of using the Italian sausage, I'm gonna use chorizo. And then I spiced it with a little bit of cumin, and I spiced it with some, you know, green chili, and so I threw the Mexican spices in there. And I said, well, this is the only thing that was Italian in that dish, was actually just the linguine at that point, because it was Mexican tomatoes, it was Mexican chorizo, it was the cumin that is really not native to Mexico, but that's a whole nother story. But because everybody thinks cumin is you know, a staple in Mexican cuisine, and it is now, but it wasn't always. But anyway, so we put that in there, and, you know, topped it with cilantro and queso fresco instead of Parmesan cheese, and so the flavors are 100% Mexican.
Fresco.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Queso fresco is a whole different type of cheese.
Yeah, so that dish kind of, you know, we took it from, you know, the new world to the old world, back to the new world, you know, and just made something really unique, and I love that dish because of that, because it was the first dish that made sense in that way to me. Because people think fusion is just, you know, oh, here's a hot dog, and now I'm gonna throw some kimchi on it, and there you go, that's fusion. And it's like, not that way. You know what I mean? Right. It's like you have to find the commonality between the foods, and then see how they work well together. So, you know, hot dogs and kimchi probably do work together, but because you got to go through the sauerkraut part, because, you know, kimchi is fermented a lot of times, cabbage, you know, and so the Germans fermented cabbage and made sauerkraut, and they ate sauerkraut with, you know, with bratwurst, you know, and so Koreans, they also ferment it, but they make it a little bit different. You know, they add chilies to it. They add a whole bunch of other flavors to it.
So everybody just kind of took a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, well, it's like the same.
Up, right?
It's like technique, and then you just apply it, and then you put things on it.
Yeah,
it's like
the palate is.
Yeah,
the palate knows what it wants.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like chiles toreados.
Yeah.
Okay, where are chiles toreados from?
I'm probably gonna get it wrong. Mexico?
Where does the soy sauce come from?
China?
Yeah.
Japanese? Yeah,
China.
Okay.
Yeah. So is it Mexican? I mean, it's a jalapeno, or is it Asian because it's got soy sauce? Well, it's both. It's evolution.
A Chinese guy and a Mexican guy were hanging out one day, and he said, "Hey."
Well, the Chinese were traveling. The Chinese were traveling with their spices, and they were making their food. And when you're basically traveling along the line, the land, and you're able to pick, stuff from farms, you use what you have.
Yeah.
And so chilies.
That's such a beautiful thing, I think, to look
yeah.
back at the evolution and how people were getting introduced to different spices and flavors. And first time somebody had chocolate, chocolate was a big thing too.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just great. Now we're able to go down the street or Uber Eats anything we want pretty much. We have it great right now. Even though the year sucks.
Well,
it's still pretty good.
Well, yeah, I mean, this COVID definitely threw people into the digital economy.
Yeah. So what has that done? What have you had to adjust to or change during this whole COVID? Because I think every industry, I don't care who you are, even myself, real estate, we were doing virtual tours. It's still masks everywhere we go with clients and things like that. So there's a lot of precautions. But when this pandemic hit, I think a lot of eyes were not only on the bar industry, right? And they closed, but they're also on the food industry because people still wanted to eat.
Right.
People didn't want to have to. I think I did it too. I cooked for a good 20 something days in a row, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not a chef. I'm bored of these bean burritos that I'm making every day, something quick. And so what types of adjustments did you have to go through during this whole COVID?
Well, I realized immediately that the shift was going to go online, and so we adjusted, our website. We adjusted our Facebook page.
You were quick with it.
You had to do it immediately. Immediately put a COVID. We have our COVID response. On our website, and we updated our menus. So we kept our customers aware and updated about all the things that we were doing. And I actually told my wife, I said, this is the shift. This is the shift to the digital economy. So many people are going to get comfortable ordering Uber, ordering, all these, food delivery services, which I am not a huge fan of. They take a lot of our money. So during times,
delivery services?
Oh yeah,
really?
Well, when they make up 1% of your sales, then it's no big deal. But when this happened, they became 10% of your sales, and they were keeping, Grubhub keeps 30% of my sales, and they only pay me once a month. And so all the sales that we had for 1 month,
you have to wait.
Yeah. So 10% of our sales we had to wait for, an additional 10 days. We usually get paid on the 10th of every month.
Wow.
And that's...
I did not know that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's...
I thought it was just I thought they were charging the customer because they're still charging us.
Yeah, they are. They're charging.
Wow.
They're charging
that's a
twofold.
Good business.
Oh,
yeah. Paid twice for one order.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's... And so, out there, order your food and go pick it up, man.
So would you say, obviously, that's better, especially if we're supporting local? Because I think a lot of people turn that focus to, hey, people are hurting right now. There's a lot of businesses that are getting shut down, a lot of people getting furloughed. There's a lot of people without the rent and the electricity and utilities. Right. And I mean, granted, there's a lot of extensions right now and everything, but who knows what's going to happen after this? This is where, real estate wise, economic wise, it kind of triggers a little red flag for me because it's scary. Our landlords really not going to get paid 6 months, 7 months,
I know.
without losing their properties, from these tenants. So it's some scary stuff that we've had to adjust to, but
Definitely.
but,
With everything and you mentioned, your online virtual tours and things like that.
Yeah.
And I've had to, and I've had to.
I already noticed it. I don't know how long that was. My bad.
But yeah, I shifted to creating more content because that's what people are doing now. They're consuming content, and so my Instagram page went from pretty food pics to like how-to videos. And we had to change our floor plan even at the restaurant, because in order to keep all the tables 6 feet apart, we went from 26 tables down to 8 tables. So even though we're allowed to do 50% capacity, because we have that space in between every table, we're only at about 33.
So you were only filling
about 33%.
4 of the tables out of the 8, or all of those 8 were able to be filled up?
On a busy day, we'll fill 8 tables.
Oh, okay, but no, what I'm saying is you had situated 8 tables out of the 24 or 23?
Out of the 26. Yeah, 26. We went from 26 tables down.
But you were able to fill them up. That was still under that 50%?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were set at four tables. I was like, holy shit.
No, 8.
It's a big drop.
8 tables, which is about 33%. But I can't go higher because the space limitation. So my particular clientele is older, and the ones that are affected by these COVID guidelines, they say people over 60, they should stay home, and
they're the most cautious.
They are, and they also happen to be the largest segment of my clientele. A lot of it because we've been around so long. So, clients that, started going to us downtown, people that work insurance, banking, attorneys, judges, people from the courthouse, a lot of people that we've met, we met them in their 40s and 50s. And so now they're in their 50s and 60s. A lot of them are retired now. And so that's just the way our clientele, our demographic is made up. So,
right. Do you see any shift in that now that you've been marketing and starting to kind of?
Well, we've always been varied. Like, we have everything. We do have 20s, 30s, 40s, 50-year-olds eating there, of course. But like the loyal base, the ones that have been with me since downtown and through my moves and through the construction and through all of the stuff that we've been going through.
Now they're ordering in.
They're ordering takeout. Yeah. They're ordering takeout. So, even though our parking lot looks empty, our kitchen is still working. So, it's been a difficult change. But now with the videos and we just recently started shooting the Chuco cooking show.
Awesome.
And we've been having tons of fun with that. So that, I think, is going to reach a broader market. We're shooting it in a way that is, respectful of our older audience. But it's also interesting and hip. And the younger audience is also
capture that engagement.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because you're
teaching them some cool recipes too, right?
Cool recipes and cool stories, because there's so many cool stories, around our region that people don't know. People get.
I just assumed right now that I was like, if you're a chef, do you need to know the history of, or is that something that you were just so interested in that you took the liberty of learning? And because I think that's, to know how to cook is one thing,
right? To
know the history of where everything comes from, you kind of get that bigger perspective of how evolved this simple dish in front of you could could seem, but how complicated that must have been, or how much time it must have took to actually make that dish, you know,
to get it there.
Yeah, to get it there. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I think definitely there's a lot of great cooks out there. There's a lot of people that know technique, you know, and they know how to grill a perfect steak, and they know how to, you know, make the perfect sauce, and that's extremely important. You know, technique is definitely very important, but
Right.
when you're creating, I think that's where the history and the background and everything just makes it more interesting. It makes a dish more interesting because it connects you to the land. It connects you to the place. It tells a story, and when you're able to tell the story through food, I think people remember it better. You know, most conversations, most parties, most conversations, you know, always end up in the kitchen. You know, it's always people gravitate to the kitchen. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's just the way things
I agree.
are.
Look at the kitchen's right here.
Oh yeah, I love that kitchen, by the way.
Yeah, it's a nice little kitchen. No, that's really cool. Where do you kind of foresee, you know, the next 6 months? What do you see them looking like? Do you feel like, you know, this is gonna be, you know, this whole pandemic is definitely the game changer? Because we were talking about that too, how you had to adjust, and you foresaw those changes that were gonna come.
Mm-hmm.
You knew it was gonna go online. You got everything prepared for it. But do you foresee, you know, the future of the restaurant business changing completely even after this whole COVID has changed or gone away?
I do. I do think it's going to be different. There's so much information out there. Not all of it is correct.
Even right now, I think of a viral video went out of some doctors in Houston, right? I think in Houston. Were they in Houston? But they were talking about finding a cure, and they were talking about different, you know, medicines that they were combining to fight this cure. And by the time this podcast comes out, maybe tomorrow, or you know, by the time somebody hears this, they're gonna be like, "Oh, stupid, that was fake." But you know, as reliable as it seemed, and so many people were reposting and everything, there were doctors that were making videos and saying, "Hey, that's not the truth," and so that you really don't even know who to believe or what to believe right now. Media, and you know, all the resources that we have right now are kind of everywhere. I think
they are, and I think that's what makes it difficult, because I mean, I see places that the ownership doesn't feel it's that serious,
right?
And they act that way, and they attract people that think the same way, and they're gonna do business, you know, their way,
right?
You know, I think that a lot of people are and it might be down, you know, generational lines, you know, like young people may not care, older people may be a little bit more scared, but all in all, unless there's like a cure, you know, I don't know how people are going to feel. The easiest way for me to explain it to people, because they you know, they'll say, "Oh, you know, you went from 26 tables to 8. You know, when are you going to go back up to like 26 tables?" And I say, "Well, when you're comfortable sitting less than 2 feet, you know, next to a stranger."
Yeah. And this, by the way, is the farthest I've ever sat from a guest. So we're trying to keep our
you know, the social distancing thing. But I mean, until people feel comfortable, you know, because that's the way it was. To fit 26 tables in my restaurant, you know, you were literally 18 inches.
You were looking at people's dishes like, "Oh, I should try that."
Yeah, right there. I mean, and that's and it worked great for 12 years, and then this happened, and who knows, you know.
Yeah.
So I dabble in drafting, And so I started to draw floor plans of what a restaurant would need to look like. You know, what do we need to do in order to keep those things? And I think that if people are going to continue doing takeout, well, then I don't need 3,200 square feet to do takeout.
Right.
You know, and a new business model emerges where, you know, I may only need 600 square feet.
Do you, as we were talking, I just thought of this. Do you think drive-in, I don't even know how to say it, drive-in, you know, the Sonic type feel where you drive up and you're, you know, far away from the other people. You're eating in your car off these little trays that they place on your 57 Chevy.
Right.
Do you think that model would ever come back? Because I think that model would work right now for a lot of restaurants, as long as you have the parking space or, you know, because I think there's a lot of real estate that you'd need to account for, not just in the restaurant.
Well, I think that I think in the restaurant of the future, you're going to have to design it in such a way that if you are going to have your tables so close to each other, then you're going to need a partition. You're going to need something to keep people, to make people feel safe, you know? That, yeah, I am sitting next to the stranger, but at least I have this, you know, plexi wall, glass.
Virtual wall where you could watch the game on this partition.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be wild.
I mean, technology is what it is. And so, yeah, it could very well happen, you know? It could be, you know, a 6-foot digital screen that, you know, keeps you from seeing what's you know.
That would be wild. You have digital TVs, digital waiters, waitresses, you know.
All of
like
that.
This is insane. But yeah, I think for sure what it's done is, you know, just like when the internet came out, this was a huge shift of consciousness, not only that, but of understanding on where the future is going. And I think, you know, a pandemic like this is uncontrollable. We can't control it. Shit happens. The Spanish flu happened, you know. And this could happen again in another 100 years, and maybe we don't have to ever deal with it again. But the reality of the situation is that this economic pandemic that happened changed a lot of businesses and the way they had to be structured. So I see it really changing the future of businesses and, you know, how businesses actually work. Even real estate, you know, like now we're having to look to better ways to virtually show, you know, I really want you to be here, so am I gonna have to strap a Google, you know, headpiece to your
VR,
and walk the house with you, you know? That would be insane. But that's literally where this shift can happen, and where it's in a virtual world, just like, you know, we've always considered the future. It was a virtual future. It's been a virtual future, and here we have this little transition. So.
Oh yeah. No, and with everything, I mean, now that these platforms allow you to monetize on your, you know, on your using your page, I think that's a very interesting shift, you know, because I think that the ability to make money off of what you do, what you love to do. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
especially on platforms that we have right now. You know, 12 years ago you didn't have them. Growing the business, so now being able to market yourself in this changing industry, in this changing world,
and people are looking for it. You know? I gave I've given 2 virtual cooking classes so far, and received great feedback from both of them.
That's great.
But that was something new, you know. Teaching, you know, people over the internet, you know, with my phone. I did it with my phone.
And you guys are all practicing social distancing. So
definitely, because everybody was in their houses, and one of the ones that we did for an insurance company, that was a really cool deal that they did. They organized it for their clientele. They went out and they asked me, okay, we want to do this. Can you give us a recipe and an ingredient list? And I said, okay, cool. You know, this is what you need. And so I gave them the ingredient list, the recipe, and they went out and bought the ingredients for, I think it was 25 people on that
wow, so it was a big...
on that call. So they went out and bought steaks. It was a grilling show, so they bought steaks and salad and some fresh vegetables to put on the grill and all that stuff, and then we cooked it together, and I showed them. That one was really cool because I basically had all the ingredients, the same basket that they got delivered, I got delivered too. And I said, okay, I was like, in the span of 1 hour, we're going to take all these ingredients. And I was like, and I told them, I was like, I haven't prepared anything in advance. Like we are going to do this together.
That's cool.
And if you have any questions, stop me and we'll keep going. But in 1 hour's time, we're going to take these things. We're going to do 3 recipes. Actually, we ended up doing 4 because I gave them a recipe on how to do some chiles toreados. And we did all that stuff in 50 minutes. And so that was really fun. But again, that was something new because people are looking for new things to do. And so that became something, something that was eye-opening for me, because in essence, that was sort of monetizing what I do.
Right.
It's like I didn't have to.
You're just doing it in a different way. Now you're not cooking for them. You're showing them how to cook.
How to cook, exactly.
Yeah, and that's just, in an ever-changing world, I applaud you for making a shift. Because a lot of people, and you see this, with Blockbuster that, laughed at Netflix. You're really just taking a different approach on something that you've already been doing and figuring out how to monetize it, how to give value, how to still give that experience. Because who doesn't like a home-cooked meal taught by a chef, So
yeah. And in hospitality, you just said the key word. It's experience.
Right.
In hospitality, we want you to have an experience. So eating at my restaurant is an experience because we follow a certain protocol, and we're family owned, and my mom's around, my dad's around.
That's awesome.
My sister, my niece, and my son. We're all working there together, and because my mom raised us to be, polite and to be hospitable and to be good hosts and things like that, that's what you get. You get that from all of us. There's only one waitress who is not family at the restaurant currently, and so everybody gets, a level of service, a level of hospitality, that they don't get at other places. And to me, keeping that experience is important,
Right.
And part of the experience in hospitality, you're an entertainer, and I tell my staff, my servers, I'm like, well, you guys are entertainers. And at first they're like, do we tell jokes? It's like, what do we do? And it's like, no.
Some paint on?
Yeah. And I said, no, it's like you tell the story of the menu.
Right.
When they pick something, then you tell them the story, and you're a storyteller. And
stories sell.
They do.
Stories really sell. I've been in a lot of different types of businesses, and I've learned that stories tell, because once they, you feel that resonation, or
you feel
something that you can relate to,
right?
It knocks down that wall. You're able to trust somebody. You're able to, feel like, this is a family-owned business, and I'm part of this family.
Part of the
I'm
family.
having dinner with the family.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a really cool experience.
Yeah. And one of the best compliments I got was from a friend of mine who I met him when he was doing his residency here in El Paso, and then he moved to Washington State. And we keep in touch basically just over Instagram, and he told me after one of the videos, he said, man, he's like, it felt like I was right there with you. It felt like I was having a beer with you, awesome. And I was like, that's really cool, Yeah. And so I think that spoke to to my philosophy of creating an experience and creating a feeling, that you're welcome, that you want to be there,
Right.
And so now we're doing it virtually and doing the Chuco cooking show. That's what it's about. It's about telling stories. It's about connecting you, to the food And yes, I feature the food obviously at the restaurant, but it's also, I wanted to serve as inspiration, because I think if people really knew all the cool stories about our region, and I say our region because we're in a place where, you know, you take a wrong turn and you're in New Mexico.
That's happened plenty of times.
Yeah, you know, and I
going into Juarez and you're like, what the fuck?
No, it's happened.
How do I make a U-turn? Yeah.
You know, it's like Google. I'm following Google. I'm like, it's like, I don't want to go to Juarez, man. I'm like, what the hell? I heard Trevor Noah one time on the Stephen Colbert show, and he was telling a story how he was doing a show downtown. He was staying, I assume he was staying at the Camino Real, and that he wanted a pair of shoes. And so that he asked the concierge, you know, I need a pair of shoes. He says, just, you know, walk down the street. You're going to see all these people, and, you know,
there's gonna be a lot of
find shoes. Yeah. You know, you'll find some shoe stores and stuff like that. And so he tells the story that he was just walking, following the people, and that when he got to the middle of the bridge where it said that, you know, this is the dividing line between the U.S. and Mexico, that he was like, oh my God, what just happened? You know, because he was just walking, and before he knew it, I mean,
he walked over.
For those who don't know who Trevor Noah is, he's South African and the host of the Daily Show.
Yeah, now. Yeah, he's a new host, right?
Yeah, and so here's this South African who just got the instruction from the concierge, just follow the people.
He's gonna look for.
And
he would have found shoes. He would have found
definitely, you know. But he almost ended up in Mexico. And he tells a hilarious story how he had to come back, and he didn't have his passport on or anything. He had his wallet, but he didn't have a passport, so that he had to show the customs agent, you know, this is who I am. It's like, you know, it's like I'm kind of famous, and you know, and I just didn't know. I'm just walking, and I didn't know, and so, but that's how it is, you know. And,
that's funny, yeah.
And we just finished shooting, and our last shot was I'm standing in New Mexico, behind me is Texas, and across this hill is Mexico. There's like 3 states, 2 countries, and I'm right here.
One picture.
You know what I mean? And that's awesome. I mean, we're in a really unique geographical place.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree. I love El Paso, born and raised, and it's just an amazing city, and it's getting bigger. It's getting, you know, hipper. And we're starting to see a lot of stuff that we've never seen if you're from here, you know. So
right,
it's a really great experience to be here. But I think, you know, having that kind of experience and tying it in with your food is really an awesome thing that a lot of people need to take advantage of. And it's all about that awareness, right? So where can people find you as far as YouTube, your new cooking show,
right.
Your location? And where are you promoting on as far as Instagram, Facebook? Okay,
so the physical location of the restaurant is 4176 North Mesa.
Across Don Haskins, right?
No, that's where we used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now we're closer to Executive Center.
Okay.
And we've been at that location now for 7 years. And it's 79902, so for my East Side friends that say we're on the West Side, we're still on the lower West Side. So it's still 79902. It's still very easy and very quick to get to from the East Side. And for our West Side customers, Executive is open now. Please use it again.
Yeah. Because everybody's like...
Yeah. Because, I mean, we were so easy. I mean, right across from us, there's a business park that has about 3,000 people that work there. Maybe not right now because of COVID, but under normal situation, about 3,000 people that work there. And so, you know, you assume some of them live on the West Side, some of them live on the East Side. And before the construction, they could jet out to the West Side and back to my restaurant, you know, and that would take them 15 minutes.
Right.
With the construction, it started taking 30, 40, 50 minutes to get home.
Yeah,
and so they just decided not to come back. And it was
just
too much
now,
traffic.
So you could
it's open now, so please come back.
Eastsiders, Westsiders.
Yeah. So we're pretty centrally located, I think. And then on Instagram, I'm Chef Rulis, Rulis. And on Facebook, you can find me. My personal page is Rulis Gonzalez. But I'm almost at my top, so I can't accept that many more friends there.
That's how I am on Instagram. I feel bad too because I meet people and I'm like, hey, I can't be your friend. I'm trying to delete people right now.
Yeah. So, but Instagram, Chef Rulis, and my Facebook page, you'll find it under Chef Rulis again, but the little hashtag is Executive Chef Rulis, and then the Rulis International Kitchen page on Facebook. And YouTube, it's under Chef Rulis again. So Twitter, Chef Rulis. I've been in the game long enough that no one was using my name when I got all my accounts, because I've had Twitter for years, and I've had every account ever since. Facebook, I've had like 11 years. When Instagram came out, got on that right away.
You got a TikTok?
I don't have a TikTok. I don't have a TikTok. I know that Gary Vee says that's the next big thing.
Yeah, Gary V's why we started the podcast.
Yeah? No, Gary Vee's amazing.
I've seen him, met him twice in Miami.
Really?
Yeah, and that's basically what he said. He's like, you don't have a fucking podcast. If you're not on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, if you're not on all these platforms, you're missing out on a lot of business.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a land grab, like he says, you know? And it's still,
exactly.
Been talking about this for a year and a half. Already 2
Oh, yeah.
years, and it's still a land grab, especially with what's happening right now.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely saw, YouTube spike. Everybody was about Instagram and Snapchat, for a while, and then YouTube all of a sudden became, the big thing again.
Yeah,
And I think now, as far as, people are just hungry for content because there's so much out there.
Yeah, and people are bored too. There's still a lot of people at home.
Yeah.
So
And
this is the time to create. This is the time to put out some content, and this is really the time to take advantage of a bad situation.
Right.
In
Out
a
of
lot people's
every
eyes.
bad, and if you haven't figured it out, I love history. So out of history, out of every bad situation in history, something really good comes out of it.
Yeah.
And it's usually what pushes things forward. There's chaos, and then something better emerges.
Yeah.
We become more conscious, we become more educated, we learn things, and we evolve as a people. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We're going through a shift.
It's a good time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
2020.
Every day.
We're experiencing some shit, but we're also,
but we're experiencing
forward
it,
thinking. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. The alternative is not very appealing to me.
Yeah.
Rather not waking up versus waking up in 2020 versus not waking up.
Yeah.
I'd rather
definitely gonna wake up. Chef Rulis, thank you so much for being on our episode.
This has been fun.
Appreciate
Cheers,
you.
man.
Make sure you guys tune in every Wednesday where we have entrepreneurs, influencers, movers, and shakers just like Chef Rulis here on our show. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers all.